Okay, here we go. It's gonna be a lot of bitterness. Beware, guys.
A lot of us who grew up in North America or in the Caribbean are part of a larger black community called the African diaspora. And I'm only talking about those who have roots in Africa. People like myself, I represent the African American community. Some of you are, let's say,
The more correct term is Black American, but continue.
African, second generation, Nigerian American, or Nigerian Canadian, or Nigerian British. Some of you are also from Ghana, Barbados, Trinidad, the island of Dominica, and places like that. But a group of people who also have that particular ancestry that often get overlooked are the brothers and the sisters from the Afro-Latina community. There are a lot of blacks that went to Colombia, some went to Argentina, but the majority of them that we see now either came from Brazil, and if you can see it in the Caribbean islands, we will look at places like the Dominican Republic. Now, the Dominican Republic and those people like in Puerto Rico, which is much different than, let's say, Haiti, right? Because Haiti is right next to the Dominican Republic. But a lot of the Dominicans are often criticized for not accepting their blackness. Like a good example would be a guy like Sammy Sosa, who was completely black, but he ended up, like he obliterated his face by getting skin lightning, right? And so a lot of Dominicans or Puerto Ricans typically are criticized for being anti-black and refusing to accept the black part.
Okay, for one, if you know the genetics of Puerto Ricans, it is lame, in my opinion, to be claiming Puerto Ricans out here. Honestly. I'm sorry, it just is at that point. I'm not saying Puerto Ricans are white people, but when black people try to claim Puerto Ricans, it's like really lame. Because if you look at the DNA results of Puerto Rican people on average, they only make out to be like 18% black on average. So it's kind of like, why would anyone say that that's a good thing to acknowledge, really, at that point? It seems just lame.
Part of their culture and just yet claiming to be Dominican or Puerto Rican. Now, there's an argument from this one particular TikToker. I'm not going to get to it right now, but there is Zoe Saldana, right? Or Saldana. Now, Zoe Saldana is a Dominican American actress who is quite.
Zoe Saldana is not just Dominican, by the way. She's Dominican and Puerto Rican. But continue.
Popular, right? And she is doing her thing. From what I understand, she's like the second highest grossing actress worldwide, okay? But there's an issue with Zoe Saldana. Can I get a dun-dun-dun sound effect? Zoe Saldana refuses to be identified or referred to as black or Afro-Latina. How do we know this?
That's not true at all. You don't even make any sense, and you don't address in this whole video how Zoe Saldana, if she is not acknowledging that she's black, how did she play roles for black people? If she didn't want to identify as a black person, the dumbest thing to do would be to represent black people in videos, in different movies, So, I mean, like, I don't understand. This is a dumb thing to try to say that Zoe Saldana doesn't acknowledge or identify as black. The main problem that she's had identifying as black was specifically in her acting roles. Black Americans were the ones who specifically were saying she could not represent black people because they thought she wasn't dark enough. Which, to me, it's just telling, honestly, because if you're a lighter-skinned black person, and she's not even a lighter-skinned black person, she's brown-skinned, but my point is, if you're not dark-skinned, basically, you're put in this position where you're not supposed to acknowledge or identify with any other race but black, which many people identify as just black, but at the same time, you can't represent black people. So, what purpose do you serve? If you can't represent your own black people because they don't really acknowledge you as black, but at the same time, you can't identify with any other race. You see what kind of predicament you're putting people in? And this is not just Zoe Saldana who experienced that, by the way. I mean, we've seen other people, like Will Smith, for example, who got heat and problems with basically representing a black man in the one movie where he is trying to take the role of the Williams sisters' father or whatever. There were issues with that as well. There have been issues in the past. It's not just Latino or anything. It's got nothing to do with Zoe Saldana's ethnic background or what country her family comes from. It has to do with the fact that she is not a dark skinned black woman. And it's like, in this day and age, they've used colorism. Dark skinned black people have used colorism to basically get power over the black race, to be able to basically take a monopoly off over the identity, basically, of the black race. Where, like, no one else can represent black people, not even brown skinned black people, like I said, like Zoe Saldana or Will Smith. It's only dark skinned black people who can represent black people. It's gotten to this extreme, and I just find it so funny that you're trying to make it out to be where Zoe Saldana was the one who was trying to run away from blackness, when um, in reality, it's just like she tried to be accepted by black people, and you guys rejected her. It was a whole big backlash, basically, for her playing a black woman's role when she represented Nina Simone in a movie, a biography on her. You can continue, but pay attention, audience, to how he never brings up a clip of her specifically saying that she doesn't identify as black. He does not address all the roles that she's played as a black woman and the backlash she got for playing those roles as a black woman. He doesn't obviously show any video footage of her specifically saying that she actually does identify as black. So, continue.
I want to talk about this lady here on Twitter, Bernadette R. Giacomazo. I know I'm messing up that name. She says this: for 5 years, sorry about this, taking music. For 5 years, I was the editor of Latin Trends magazine. We featured Zoe on our covers. She never wanted to identify as black or Afro-Latina. Take a look at the pictures she would approve for the covers. Why is it a black publication's responsibility to carry her water? Now, what she's saying is, once she basically decided...
That's not true, though, because in reality, when someone says that they're Latino, this is a weird thing. Anytime that Afro-Latino people acknowledge that they're Afro-Latino and then they start talking about how they're Latino, people start saying, oh, you're trying to say you're not Afro-Latino and you're not trying to acknowledge that. No, you're saying you're Latino because you are Latino. You can't... What is she supposed to say? Oh, like, write all over herself that she's black, she's black, she's black, no matter what she's talking about? She can talk about her Latino heritage without bringing up that she's black every second of the frickin' day. Especially when she's talking to Hispanic people who may not be of Afro descent. She may be talking about what they have in common, which is being Latino. That doesn't mean she doesn't identify with being a black Latina. She obviously does. So that's what I mean. It's just so weird. If someone says they're Afro-Latina, that means that they're Latina and they're Afro, so they're black too. So they identify as both things. Continue.
That she would be never identifying as black or Afro-Latina, and you clearly can look at her and see that she's definitely has, African ancestry. It is almost clear as day. So what's happening now is that she's doing very well, but African American media refuse to cover her, like Ebony, Essence, those people, because they say, okay, well, you're not black, so let the Latinos take care of you. So now you have this person, Nydia Simone.
That's not true at all, though, because she, like I said, she played roles for black people like Nina Simone, specifically those outlets, those um, type of media actually had an issue with her playing a black woman's role. So it seems like she was honestly just rejected by black people, black media, and then she tried to make it work for herself. What do you want? It's like this, interesting to me. It's interesting. It's like, to me, you guys want people to just continue to beg and beg and beg for you to accept them even after you've rejected them. It's so weird. It's like nobody's gonna do all that. Why should anyone anyway? And I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's continue.
Who actually says this. So Zoe Saldana is the second highest grossing actress worldwide and the highest grossing black woman actor period, and all of the African American pubs are silent. This is why black Latinos have difficulties in media. Accomplishments often go overlooked. Now, what I want to do is this. I want to play this TikTok video from this young lady, who, by the way, is very good looking, right? And she's going to talk about the fact that Dominicans are people do identify as being black, and I'm going to come back and we'll assess it.
Okay, so I briefly want to touch on this because I'm tired of this joke about Dominicans, and you guys know exactly which one I'm talking about because apparently you guys love to touch on this even after 3 years, you know. But I'm not here to fight y'all. I'm actually here to give you guys the knowledge that y'all need so that ignorance could stop. So just because Dominicans are very proud from where they come from doesn't mean they're anti-black. We're black. We know it. Promise you. Have you been to our country? Most of y'all haven't. Y'all really need to go out there too so you guys could really peep how everything is. Race is an American thing. Dominicans don't know what race is, okay? America has always divided everybody into groups. Dominicans don't know how to do that. We see each other as one. A lot of the misunderstanding comes from the lack of education in the country. And y'all really can't blame them for that. Like, they don't know how to identify themselves because the average Dominican kid drops out at 9 years old to go work. Do your research about our culture because Dominican culture, 90% of it comes from Africa, and we know it. We're still celebrating it and embracing our ancestors and what they taught us. We're representing them. It's in us. And I'm about to show you guys how real quick. It's literally all from Africa.
I tend to think that honestly, the Latino Caribbeans and also the Caribbeans tend to have a closer culture to Africa than Black Americans do. That's just the truth. We do not have any customs connected to Africa like they do generally, from like a cultural perspective. Anyway, continue.
And I'm not sitting here denying that there's no colorism in the country because there is. But that comes from European people and the whack-ass dictator that we used to have. And even though the Europeans tried really hard to make Afro-Dominicans forget their customs, force them to learn Spanish, which is not our fault, convert them to Catholicism, a lot of what our other ancestors taught us will never be forgotten. It's in us. You know what I'm saying? So next time y'all know that Dominicans don't mean that in any disrespectful way. We're not denying anything at all. It's just in our country, we just see each other as that. Dominican, no matter what you come from, your skin tone, none of that, you feel me? And remember, we're talking about people that live in a third world country. Most of y'all don't really know what that is.
So, let me say this.
I'll say I never really get why people always try and put the idea that Dominicans are like trying to reject their blackness. I do feel that's weird because I mean, like, from my experience, at least, because everyone knows from my step grandfather is Dominican, and I don't think any of that side of the family is really like self-hating or anything. To me, I just think that they are I would think like most of them are pretty dark skinned. Like, I don't think anyone's rejecting their black at that point. Like, I mean, when I say dark skin, I mean darker than my mom, probably as dark as my aunt, like real deep, deep dark. You know, um, and that's nothing wrong. That's all beautiful. But it's just, yeah, I don't get why people always act like Dominicans are people who don't want to be black, or that they're somehow like trying to hold on to some kind of mixed ancestry or something. Like, they seem more black, honestly, than black Americans to me. My experience. Anyway, continue.
And I'm seeing situations like, let me play this controversial clip right from John Leguizamo, a comedian. This guy is going to say that Latino community built the world. They built this country. This is a guy that John Leguizamo, rather. He's been in all kind of black films and things like that. I want you guys to hear this clip, and then I'm going to come back.
Latin people, we're the largest ethnic group in America, the oldest ethnic group. We built this country. We suffered in this country. We were oppressed, and we're thriving. We add $2.8 trillion to the GDP every year. If we were our own country, we'd be the fifth largest economy in the world, bigger than England, bigger than Italy, bigger than Brazil. And that's just in America. So I found Latin excellence all over America, in Chicago, in DC, in Miami, in Puerto Rico, in LA, in New York. And
I find it really weird when they say they've been here so long. I don't get that. That's just my opinion. Like, what do you mean you've been here so long? In America? I mean, we have the Tejanos people. Tejanos people and some of the other people in the Southwest and so forth have been here since 1850s. That's not really that long, honestly, considering like black Americans, for one, we've been here since the 1600s. So I mean, like, that's kind of weird that they say that they've been here so long. I don't know any Hispanics who have been here long. But yeah, point is, what I wanted to address here was he's trying to represent this guy or the other girl as people who have said things in reference to Hispanic people, meaning to say that that's how Zoe Saldana feels. When John Leguizamo isn't even Dominican. What are you doing? So, are you going to talk about how Mexicans treat black people in Mexico? I mean, like, at this point, you might as well talk about the Chileans and the stuff that was going on with black people there. I mean, they're not the same as Dominicans, and they're definitely not the same as an individual person like Zoe Saldana, who has played black people. So how are you going to just say, oh, Hispanics have done this, Hispanics have done that to black people or whatever? Like, that's just weird to me. It's very weird. You're trying to generalize here. And it's, to me, it's like, this is even worse than saying a black American did this, then all black Americans are a certain thing, you know. It's more like saying someone in Africa, Africans are warring against each other because of whatever is going on wrong in their country, then assume that that means that all black people are warring against each other. Like, they're really literally having wars against each other, even in America. Wouldn't that be really crazy? Just because you know someone in some country elsewhere from a whole nother country is doing something, you know, specifically, that means that everyone of that specific color is doing that same thing. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's just really poor logic, basically. And his argument here is just falling flat, honestly. It's just really interesting to me because it's like he even has the front photo of her playing Nina Simone. So why are you trying to pretend that she doesn't identify as black? She's always identified as black. One, she tried to play roles for black women and got rejected for it, and also she even had to apologize for playing a black woman's role. So that's all I have to say in this video. I'm going to do a second video on this, show a few other things I wanted to show. And that's all I'm going to do. Thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe, comment down below, and have a great day. Bye.